This is, you know, we're going to be on TV. So many people will be watching.
I know.
True. They're very popular.
All right, looks to be good. So I'll just let it stream for now.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks. I'll wait till 5, and I say we'll open it then, even if Denise is a few minutes late to join us.
What time is it?
4:57.
I have 4:57, almost 4:58.
What are you doing? What is that? You know what it is, Andrew. Come on. Let me see. What's talking?
Okay, I have 5 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I'll open the June 2020 meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. We have one item on the regular agenda and then our minutes to review. I'll announce also that David Diaz, who joined us last month as an alternate, has moved out of the village, or is moving out of the village, so he's actually had to resign. So we have still one alternate, which is good, but David is unable to serve on the board anymore. Our first regular agenda item is 21 Elm Street, which is an application of First Baptist Church represented by Cindy Falk. It's an area variance request for removal of a total of 5 trees, but only 2 of them require a variance. And I'm going to let either Cindy or Jane kind of summarize. Where'd Cindy go?
Wait, why do only 2 need a variance?
Is Cindy coming back?
She's there.
Michael?
Cindy's here. I'm talking. I mean, I'm being rude.
I guess I can only see 6 people. Okay. Go ahead. Oops.
Why do only 2 need a variance? Because of the 30%, the percentage?
Right.
Did we resolve that though? I mean, that was part of your on your app. You weren't sure which ones belonged to whom, but that's all.
I went out to the site on Sunday and counted trees, and from what we could tell based on some surveys, it appears that there were roughly 10 trees that we could say were on the church's property. So with the 30%, they're allowed to remove 3. And so if they want to take down 5, there's 2 more that need the variance.
Oh, okay.
And then in addition to that, it seems like there are a number of questionable trees that might be on the property line itself.
The ones, well, there's a longer story that I'm sure Jane can share with you, but the ones that are slated for removal are all clearly on the church's property. There are a good number of trees that are on property lines. There's one between the Baptist and the Catholic churches parking lots that, you know, I don't know, we haven't had our property surveyed. The church has had it for too long. And then there are a whole series of trees along the south side backing up to Schoolhouse Court that I have always assumed belong to Schoolhouse Court. They're also somewhere near the property line.
I believe those are definitely Schoolhouse Court because we could find one pin on the 17 Elm property located. And if you took that one and from the surveys, that corner lines up with the corner at the Catholic Church. So if you basically look down that line, all the trees were
on the other side.
Outside.
You're talking about those tall, those pines?
Yes.
Yeah.
Line the
They're
back?
evergreens. Yep. So what we'd like to do, we have 5 trees that are significantly overhanging the parking lot. They have grown in such a way that they are not straight. And we had to remove one in 2017 and did not come to the village for any request at that point because we had to remove it because the top half was literally hanging over cars in the parking lot. So the top of the tree was detached from the bottom of the tree. We don't want that to happen again. Given our current situation, our parking lot is actually one of our biggest assets. It's one of the few places of the property that's seeing use right now. So we've applied for some grant funding that hopefully would come through by the end of the summer that would allow us to address the tree situation.
Okay. So does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I couldn't find, I went back there and I think on your picture that, you know, you had them X'd on your photo and I saw the 3, the 1, 2, 3, particularly those 2 that lean over. You know, in other words, when I walk in with Elm to my back and I walk in, they're on the left. And I saw those. I didn't see the other 2. I couldn't figure out where those were. I didn't have my computer, I didn't have it up on my phone, I have to admit, but where are those other ones?
You want me to pull up the application?
Yeah, that might be good.
I can pull up, I mean, I've got it here, but like I say, it doesn't, I couldn't make, I can't tell from your picture where it is. And when I was standing there, I couldn't figure it out either. I mean, you know, listen, don't draw any conclusions, but that's what happened.
I took the picture standing near the middle of the parking lot, shooting to the south and to the north. So the 3 are to the south of the center, and then the other 2 are to the north of the center.
So they're on the Catholic Church side?
No, the
3 would be.
They're all on the 1721 property line.
Oh, okay. All right.
They're all.
I cannot share my screen.
All I can figure.
You can or cannot, Jane?
I cannot share my screen. It says host isn't allowing it, so I need something switched.
Hold on, let's see if I can do that.
And one of our concerns right now is with the reduction in the number of trees next door, it leaves those trees a little more vulnerable, you know, in terms of wind, in terms of.
Yes, thanks.
Go ahead. Sorry. There you go.
Okay, so I would assume that what you're seeing on your screen now is looking towards the back of the property.
Yeah. It is toward the south,
and,
yep.
And there's 3 trees that are X'd out on that photo. Can you see that, Marcy?
Right, yeah. And those I could identify when I was standing there.
Then the next photo is looking back towards Elm Street.
Oh, so those are all still in the same line?
Yes.
It's the same line of trees, yep.
Oh, okay, okay, now I get it. Now, well, how about the people next door? What's their thought on this? Who lives there? Is that Carpenter?
Yeah,
Yes,
it is
Scott Carpenter.
Yep.
So what's their thought?
They actually just removed a significant number of trees from their property. And while we haven't specifically asked them about the application, they certainly know that this was in the works.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll get a notice for the public hearing.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious to see if they, care or whatever.
Okay. All right, so everyone's clear what trees we're talking about. And we just need to set up a public hearing.
Yep.
Oh, can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Is there any plan to do any kind of other landscaping or something like that? I mean, well, I go to the Catholic Church, so don't take any offense, but I think that's ugly there. Don't you think that, like, what is that between these two hunks of asphalt, and nobody can put some plants in? Anyway, just throwing that out there. Are there any plans for anything else?
It's not immediately in the works. To be honest, at this point, we have enough trouble keeping our grass mowed so that it looks.
Yeah, right. I know. Okay.
All right. So we'll set up a public hearing for this for 5 o'clock on the July meeting.
July 7th.
July 7th, thank you. All right.
July 7th? I thought it was July 6th.
7th is the Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
And
that's as late as it can be. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Jane will send out notices.
And right now, we're still not sure whether or not the meeting's going to be online or not. I know Terry said they were going online through July or through June.
Through June.
So I'm not sure. The last notice I sent out for the paper and for everybody was basically to say that we needed comments in writing or by email before the day of the meeting. So I'll see as it gets closer to the middle of the month when the notice actually goes in to see how Terry wants to handle whether or not we automatically call it as in person or online.
I know we did not do this at the last public hearing, but should we also offer an option of them contacting you and that they might be able to be part of the Zoom and just kind of,
I mean, I guess that's doable. I mean, I know that the village is basically just asked for public comment in writing as opposed to offering the option to address it online. For something like this, I guess, I'm thinking mostly long-term. It seems like if we end up doing this for the next 8 months, we might want to have some way for public to see our faces and see their faces.
Yeah.
Okay. And does anyone have any sense of whenever we do go back to being in person, are we going to have social distance or have any idea of how that'll be structured?
Haven't quite figured that out yet. I mean, we will have to social distance.
Okay.
I don't think there's any other options.
Just spread our chairs out.
The one
need a bigger table.
The one meeting that the village board had, we met in the ballroom.
Yeah.
Where there's a little more space than downstairs in the meeting room.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Okay. All right. Everyone that got minutes, if you would read those, and I was going to give Jane just a minute to kind of, we talked earlier, Jane, about the adjacent property and their tree removal. You want to just kind of summarize that for everybody?
Well, as long as, because Cindy's involved in this one also. The carpenters at 17 Elm Street removed several trees in what they mistakenly thought was their property, but might actually have turned out to be along the property line of the Baptist church or the Baptist rectory building. And if it turns out that they did actually fall in the property of the rectory, what happens is that removes all the trees that are on that property. So technically at that point, they're in violation of our section 331 because they did not authorize the removal or ask for the trees to be removed, and they were removed by Scott Carpenter under the impression that it was his property at the time. What I'd like to do is just put something in the file that basically says, you know, acknowledges that the trees were removed, but nothing further, no further action needs to be taken as far as, you know, notice of violations or anything like that.
Okay.
So,
And we would not go retroactively through any process of variance for the trees that are already gone.
I don't see the need for that at this point,
Yeah.
because the owners aren't the ones who actually took them down. If they had taken them down, I'd make sure that it would go through the variance process, but because they weren't the ones to take them down, I'd say that we could get by with just putting something in the file.
Okay.
But wait a minute, back up. Shouldn't there be something? I mean, you know, I got the tree thing in my background. Okay. So I just want to make sure we go for consistency. Do you think, I mean, that's kind of weird because that changes the math for the rectory if they need to take something down. I mean, are you saying now the rectory has no trees on its property?
Correct.
Okay, so I guess removing 30% isn't an issue.
Good point, yeah.
Shouldn't the carpenters maybe be asked to, like, you know, stick a fruit tree in, like do something symbolic? I mean, you're right. I don't feel like hammering them. But I just sort of feel like I don't want this to happen again. Somebody shows up, oh darn, I thought they were my trees. And oh well, do you know what I mean?
No, you're absolutely
Am I paranoid?
Scott raised an interesting point that unfortunately can't be checked until the office of the county clerk is open again. And that is that it is very likely that he has an easement of that property. But the details of that are buried in a deed from 1887, which isn't accessible online. So Jane was able to find a map from 1879 or from 1979, which shows the easement, but you know, we will be looking more into that. What the church would like Mr. Carpenter to do is to plant hedges as opposed to trees between them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Something nice looking.
I mean, not that the village needs to be involved in that, but I said you don't want the village involved in any way, right?
I don't believe that you need to be involved. I think we've worked it out amicably.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, I like that. As long as it's like worked out amicably and some statement like that can go. If you're going to put something in the file, I just want to know that I'm protected, you know, the next time somebody does something off the wall.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean.
Yep. Okay. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes?
Yes, I have things to say.
Oh, good.
Okay, so in the beginning I think it's on the first page, Michael, you have an explanation of how the whole Zoom thing is going to work. And I think it would be important to add, you explained to us that your written minutes were in fact going to be the official record of the meeting.
Okay.
Do I have that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so why don't I'd appreciate if you'd stick that in there, just for clarity, since you took a lot of time to explain everything.
I thought that was actually in there.
No, I missed it if it is.
Maybe.
Minutes will be taken and posted the same as with regular in-person meetings, but Michael went to pains to just say to us that that is in fact going to be regardless of Zoom, the record of the meeting is going to be in her written minutes.
Yeah, I'll make that. You want it stronger, a little stronger statement about.
Yeah.
You're just or you could just say official minutes will be taken and posted the same as with.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you should just say, to avoid confusion, the written minutes are the record of the meeting.
Well, I think they're both records of the meeting, Marcy, somehow.
Really? If we get taken to court, then they can use YouTube?
I don't see why they couldn't use it. It's a recording of what happened in the meeting, but it would be, I don't know how.
Yeah, but you know what the things mean. I don't know. Well, okay.
I thought
I'll make that a little stronger to say that, but I don't think I can imply that. I don't think I have the authority to say that the Zoom minutes or the Zoom recordings have no legal bearing on anything. That won't work at all. I can say that mine are considered by the village to have the same standing that they always had and be the official interpretation or the official understanding of what happened.
Yeah, see, that's what I want to see written down.
I can say that.
Am I picky? I'm picky. I'm sorry.
So say that sentence again and write it down as you're saying it, if you would.
Well, I'm going to say that although I guess I would say although the Zoom meeting remains a permanent record, the written minutes are considered by the village to be the official record of the. No, they're the official summary of the meeting.
Okay. I thought I'd heard somewhere that whenever you have these Zoom meetings that you actually end up with some sort of transcript of it ultimately. Is that?
I don't think that they ended up doing that, and I think that they decided that that was only necessary under certain circumstances, so there is no actual written transcript, but I think that the recordings remain
Okay.
up.
All right.
I don't. Cindy, do you know?
Yeah, the minutes are the official record of the meeting. The written minutes that Michael's doing. If there is a request for a transcript of the video, then we have to provide that.
Yeah, okay. All right. So any other?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Keep going, Marcy.
Okay, now this, all right, I'm sorry. I'll apologize going into it. That whole thing on Lake Street, that whole house thing
Marcy,
we did.
hold on 1 second. Hey, Jane, can you post those up so I can see them? Because I don't have them in front of me. Can you put them, screenshot them back up again?
So whereabouts, Marcy, do you want me to go to?
It starts at the very bottom of page 1.
Okay.
And it continues, but here's the deal. There's the gazebo, there was the gazebo and the greenhouse. And this is my understanding, and it comes up in 3 places, I think. Oh no, 2 places. The greenhouse was going to be up by the pool, and it was going to be in the side yard setback. And that's the thing they changed. And so it's not in the side yard setback anymore. The gazebo was never, the footprint, they were going to move that up. The gazebo is further down, and the gazebo's not by the pool. The gazebo, at one point, here's what's happening. At the very, starting at the bottom of page 1, it starts talking about the gazebo. And the gazebo in the side yard setback where it's currently located, but that was, the gazebo's further down. The gazebo was down in the riparian part.
True.
And their whole plan originally was take that baby and move it out of the riparian thing, which was great. So they weren't there for a variance for that. The variance was for the greenhouse that was near the pool, and they were going to build that in such a way that it was in the side yard setback. And so what they did was not do that. They redesigned it so it's no longer in the side yard setback. So
that was not what they said at the meeting, though, Marcy. And also, they're planning on demolishing the gazebo. That was, they definitely said that. The gazebo's going.
Okay.
I don't know whether the greenhouse was ever supposed to replace it in the location or not, but they got rid of that plan too. So they got rid of the gazebo and the greenhouse. Tell me if I'm wrong, Jane. And then they decided instead to build the garden shed, and the garden shed's going to be placed somewhere else. That's really what they're saying.
Okay. Can I talk?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The greenhouse, which was going to be located along the side property line directly behind the garage, was taken out of that location and placed on, as you're looking at the house from the street, on the left-hand side, outside of that side yard setback. So it no longer needed to go before you guys at all, but it happened after the meeting where the public hearing was set, where they were requesting 2 separate variances. The gazebo that is down at the bottom of the lake, at one point they were talking about maybe putting a garden shed down there. They wanted to remove the gazebo. They got permission to remove the gazebo through the historic board, and anything that they do put down there is outside of any setbacks. So at this point, the only variance that needed to actually be discussed at this May meeting was the 2 piers at in the front yard setback. So basically, that's what happened. Whether we need to see all the before, after, no longer kind of things in the minutes, I don't know. Because once the May meeting actually was taking place, everything had already been changed and no longer required to have the second variance. So,
But it
Okay,
does,
so we can just skip it, I guess.
well, it did. I mean, I think that those 2 bullets are confusing because they do pair up the greenhouse and the gazebo, which were 2 independent
Right.
right.
structures.
Yeah, and that's where I was confused.
So I mean, I would say eliminate a plan to construct a greenhouse inside setback and relocate it where no setback is required.
Right. Yeah.
Would be a true statement
Okay.
for the first bullet.
Yeah.
And then under original plan, demolish existing gazebo in the riparian zone and replace it with shed within the setbacks, or, you know, or,
Right, but that had nothing to do
Outside
with,
setback.
you know.
I agree, but it was discussed.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and it doesn't group these in the wrong, you know, gazebos and they were really 2 independent structures that didn't impact each other at all.
Correct. It shouldn't say greenhouse on that bullet.
Right.
So I actually have a question about setback. About whether you say something's in the setback or out of the setback. If it's in the setback, is it where it's supposed to be, or is it where it's not supposed to be?
Yeah, you're right. When I think of it, I say if it's within the setback, it's not where it belongs.
Is that what everybody agrees?
So
Yeah, and outside the setback is a weird phrase, but means it does not, it meets the requirements. It doesn't.
Right.
but it is confusing, I'll give you that.
And
Right,
similarly,
because when somebody says it's inside the setback, you think that means it's inside beyond the setback, but technically it means it's actually
in the setback.
too close to the property line.
Yeah. Just to stay on this setback tangent a minute, the other thing that I would suggest going forward when we address variances, it's always confusing whether we're giving kind of relief from the requirement, or it seems like it would be nice to phrase it both ways so there's clarity. Say, you know, like 8 foot relief from the setback to allow it to be 2 feet from the property line. You know, so there, because I know
Yeah,
historically
you're right.
we've addressed it both ways, and it does, you have to go back to the plan to completely understand exactly what the meaning is sometimes. All right. So do you want to talk, so is that solved right there? Do you know exactly what that's going to say, Marcy?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds good. Yeah, as long as that's straightened up between the gazebo, the greenhouse, and the shed.
Okay.
You know, we all know what's what. And then the last thing, Michael, I just love this. Okay, at the bottom of page 4, under Marcy Schwartzman.
Yeah, what I do? 4, keep going. There you go, Jane.
Keep going, under Marcy Schwartzman.
Or down am I going?
One county closed. Okay.
Yeah. So indent the second bullet.
Oh, okay.
I had to find something.
Okay. Anything else, Marcy?
No, I'm done.
Okay.
Okay, so we had 3 points of clarification. The bullet, the
Minute.
street, greenhouse and gazebo, and what was the very first one?
The minute.
About the minutes.
Thanks, the official minutes. All right. So is there a second for those changes?
Who motioned them?
I think Marcy did.
I motion. I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended, as changed, as edited.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dave, thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I guess we have to do this. I'm sorry. So Marcy, your vote?
Oh, aye.
David?
Aye.
Susan? Aye. Okay. All right. I think we might be done. Anything else?
Well, can I ask a question? Just,
Sure.
I mean, this isn't something that we need to hash out now, but if we could get more information or, you know, we didn't get an application for the freestanding solar panels. Remember, Jane, you brought that up, that might be a possibility over in Lakeland Shores that somebody.
Right, they still haven't applied.
Right, okay, so it's not pressing, obviously. But I was just, it was occurring to me, should that, or the guidance on utilities, is that at all germane to that? I'm thinking, you know, do we give a variance to put up a phone pole?
This is a private one. It's not a public.
Right. And the reason why this one in particular is, from what I understood, they were going to mount the panels high enough that they could mow under them. So they were actually going to project up into the air 8 to 12 feet. And if that falls within the setbacks, there is an issue. Now, if they could have put the panels somehow, you know, at an elevation that didn't, you know, was underneath the 4 feet, I probably would have looked at it and not addressed it. But it just seemed like, you know, it was something that needed a little more
review.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
boards.
And I'm just wondering, I mean, I'm just sort of throwing this idea out for, you know, the future. I mean, we're going to be, presumably, we're going to be getting more of these in our lives and in our community, more of these panels. And people will be thinking of different ways of installing them, and different things will work in different locations. And it just made me think that it is kind of in the neighborhood of utilities. And
I mean, the historic board does review anything as far as putting panels on roofs and things like that. They are doing those reviews. So I assume that, seeing how it would be something that HPARB would be involved in, if these ended up falling within the setback, it should have been also something that needed
I guess
to be
I figure even though
you.
they're private, it's a utility, you know. Well, anyway, I'm just.
I guess if somebody wants to put them in their front yard, though, we probably would want to have a chance to talk about it.
I see what you're saying. And that I'm not advocating one thing or the other, but you know, I've got this ugly phone pole in my front yard. So what's the difference? You know, how I get my power, you know?
Yeah, I don't, maybe there's state law that somehow tells us how to review it. I don't know.
So anyway, okay, so that's all. I'll be quiet now.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts or anything?
I have a question on the cutting down of trees. So if we've granted somebody the maximum amount of trees they can cut down, or they've got an extra one out, what happens to the next owner of the property? Is that on for good, or to the next owner say, well, I only have
10 years.
It's 10
yeah,
years.
I'd say, and that's
10 years. Yeah, go on.
I'd say that's the real difficulty. Even though the intent is clear of the part of the law, that's the difficulty of policing it, because it's. I mean, we don't have records on what trees are on properties right now. They just come up periodically.
Right.
So I would say that the next owner would have to go through a variance process, assuming that they're kind of aware of for the history. They have to go through a variance process if they exceed 30% in 10 years.
So typically what happens is even if you had 10 trees and you only wanted to cut down and you knew that you were legally allowed to do that, I hope that most people contact the zoning office and just inform me. And then I put a note in the file that on June of 2020, a tree was cut down so that we keep a running total of trees. And most, you know, most of the tree services know to contact me and just let me know that they're removing trees. Now, here again, if the tree is diseased, dead, damaged, or causing structural issues to the, you know, to the buildings, then they're allowed to remove them without it counting towards their percentage. But if you just wanted to cut down a tree because you wanted a big grass lawn and you didn't like the tree, then that needs to be accounted for.
Okay.
It's a hard thing to enforce consistently. Okay, anything else? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Hold your hand up. We're gonna do it different this time. All right, thank you. Thank you all very much.
Okay, thank you.
See you
Good
next
night,
month.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.